Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to How to Rock the Virtual Stage. We're back again on a Wednesday night, and we are going to roll through another great evening of tips and tricks and insights of how to rock the virtual stage. There is so much going on with coronavirus. Schools, virtual courthouses now are in session. It is unbelievable what is happening with technology right now. So we want to make sure we hear from you. So once again, this week, we are going to open up with a special guest. We are going to talk about profiles tonight, of how to take your profile and enhance your profile so that people can find you as a virtual speaker, as a leader, as a teacher, and we're going to make this better. Rhonda Sher is with us tonight. I'll give a great introduction for her in a few minutes. And then also in the second half, we're going to have Q&A as also. You can ask Rhonda questions, or if you have questions for me about the stage, about what we're talking about. Also, I want to remind everybody, because we're always getting updates right now, Zoom has a big update coming before the end of May. If you have not updated your settings, make sure you update your settings on Zoom so we can get all that set, because you will get bumped out or you're going to be forced to grow up and join the rest of us. So it really kind of depends on how things are rolling. So make sure you do update all of these things. It is so important right now. Also, we just found out with the Eventbrite is acting up a little bit. And so the Eventbrite ticket, if you tried to get that, may or may not be working right now. We apologize for that, but that's part of the security protocols. They're enhancing everything, making it tougher for us to even get on and do what we love to do. So keep updating things and make sure you stay on top of that. So let me get an introduction here for our special guest tonight. And Rhonda Sher is a nationally recognized expert in business, networking, and LinkedIn. She's the author of the international best-selling book, Convert Your Connections to Cash and Relationship to Revenue, The 2-Minute Networker, the ABCs of LinkedIn, Get LinkedIn or Get Left Out. I love that title, by the way. How to Avoid the Business Card Pileup, 52 Ways to Boost Your Business with Business Cards. Rhonda is the expert at teaching CEOs, realtors, speakers, authors, small business owners, and entrepreneurs how to leverage LinkedIn and convert the relationships into revenue. Rhonda has a natural sense of humor. You will find that out in a few moments, I'm sure. An interactive approach and 20 years of business experience has brought her into the forefront as a business leader. She is a sought-after national keynote speaker and trainer, and she teaches powerful, practical techniques, the inside secrets to take your profile to profit using LinkedIn. She's the founder of the Sure Method of Unlocking LinkedIn and helps thousands of professionals, hundreds of thousands of dollars to grow in their own business, in their own systems. But she has a better system, and that's why she's here tonight. She's going to tell us about that system and give some practical tips and insights. Good evening, Rhonda. Thanks for joining us here on the virtual stage.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, Rich. Thanks for inviting me.
So we have a little freeze up on my side. We have a little freeze up on my side.
Yeah, you froze first.
There. Now you're coming back. That's the type of technical glitch.
Yeah, you froze for a second too.
We've had this all day long going on. There's
yeah.
Trembling in the air that does not like me today. So we're going to just blame it on me. Hopefully it will shake itself out. So Rhonda, as a speaker and leader, you know about technical problems. The first time we met was on a webinar of one of yours.
I sure do.
What's it like for you as a speaker and leader to run into technical issues? And right now with the shift to technology, before we talk about LinkedIn, how do you face technical difficulties as a leader and speaker yourself?
Well, you know, it's interesting because funny thing happened. There was a time, and it was just not that long ago, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, I was doing a webinar for my husband's company on LinkedIn, right? I mean, how funny is that? And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? LinkedIn literally went down. Can you imagine? At the same time, I'm doing a webinar live with the share screen, and LinkedIn shut down. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I wondered if it was my technology, but it turned out it was actually LinkedIn had got down, you know, just went down. And I thought, okay, well, I can pivot. And all I did was, because I know my slides inside and out, and I know LinkedIn inside out, so I just kept talking. And I said, you know, I guess the universe doesn't want us to actually see LinkedIn. So I'm just going to talk about it. You're just going to have to use your hearing and your kinesthetic instead of your visual. And we just kept going. And then all of a sudden somebody texted me and said, oh, it's back. And we just put it right back in.
Well, and that's what we're trying to coach people here on the virtual stage, because people are trying to learn this. And every week, we've had great weeks, we've had tough weeks. It seems like the world is trying to play catch up, and technology sometimes is just shooting us in the foot. The best thing to do, like you said, go right through it. Just keep leading right through it, and people will put up with it, right? People will adapt because they want the good stuff.
Well, yeah, and perfection is overrated anyway. It really is. Perfection's overrated because they're relating to you. And whether you're coming through a screen or you're in person, they're still relating to you. So you just kind of laugh about it and say, okay, I guess this was a glitch, and you keep going, right? Because life goes on.
So LinkedIn is a business platform. It's not like Facebook. It's not like Twitter. It's not like Instagram. I was a latecomer to LinkedIn. I thought it was just put your resume up there, and it was a business profile, and you just kind of let it ride. LinkedIn's way bigger and way more powerful than that, isn't it?
It is. It was actually purchased by Microsoft back in 2015. And when Microsoft bought LinkedIn, it was kind of a game changer because a lot of things that we had went away. And then we got some other good stuff. But it did change. And what most people don't realize, Rich, is that LinkedIn is a place that you can position yourself as the only logical choice for your product or services. It's actually a way that you can position yourself.
Well, and that's one of the changes. It used to be just a resume. Now it's about positioning, and it's about placement.
Absolutely.
It's about how people need to find you to stand out from all the resumes.
I was going to share with you just a quick funny story. My kids, my daughters now are 28 and 30, but when they were younger, all of the kids got together and they said, oh, let's just Google our moms, right? So they all Googled all the moms. And one of the things that I share with people is that there's about a 70% chance when somebody Googles you that your LinkedIn profile is going to show up on the first page if you have a solid profile. So they Googled all the moms, and they said to my daughters, they go, there's like 8 pages on your mom. Is she famous or something? Because every time I would give a talk, it would show up on Google. And they said, oh, no, she doesn't even have a job. She just speaks, she just talks. She's a speaker. I thought that was hysterical.
My brother did the
same. I would encourage everybody to go and Google themselves.
Yeah. My brother did the same thing because I speak, I travel like you do. My brother didn't know how extensive this thing got. So he Googled me, sat me down on the couch one night and said the very same thing. He said, you are everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It really is.
And really, everyone on our call tonight, you should Google yourself. Just type in your name. If you have a stage name or an act name, you should do that. And you should see what things are generating. And if you're using LinkedIn properly, like Rhonda said, it will bump higher on your count. And as a professional working with professionals, you want it to be higher on the count. It's so.
Yeah, and it's true. I one of the things that I find, Rich, which is interesting, is so many people are super professional. They're absolutely amazing at what they do, right? And when you go and look at their LinkedIn profile, there's a total disconnect. What I like to say, it's like going to a black tie event and you're wearing your running clothes. So I call those people, they're in LinkedIn witness protection. They will never get found.
So you've seen my profile. Am I in witness protection, or am I somewhere?
You're not in witness protection. No, you're not in witness protection. Absolutely not. No, you're not. But it's amazing that, so many people don't know the settings even where I have CEOs of companies, C-suite executives, and if they're not a first level to you, they're a second level, their pictures do not even show up because they don't know how to use the privacy settings. So you talk about being in witness protection. Wow, you can't even see what they look like, much less anything else.
So take us to the dark side of LinkedIn. Like if someone's just starting out, what are some of the taboos? What are the things that you see and you cringe and go, please don't ever do that again?
What a great question. Well, the first thing I want to tell you is do not put a selfie that's a bad selfie as your profile picture. You want to have a professional picture. You're 14 times more likely to have people engage with you. I recently was speaking with a gentleman who is a high seven-figure earner in the insurance industry. And I looked at his profile and I said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, can I ask you a question? Are you a triplet? He said, what do you mean? I said, there's 3 people in your headshot. There were literally 3 people in his headshot, right?
Yep.
Funny. So that's one of the things that you want to make sure of. The other is, and this is kind of for me, it's obvious, but for a lot of people, it's not. So underneath your name, if you don't put a headline, what LinkedIn will do is it will default to your current job title. So if they're not specifically looking for you, you will never get found. That place right underneath your name is your headline. That's where you tell people what it is that you do and who you serve, right? And you would not believe the number of people that, you know, and I see things that are so funny that say, I take people from good to great. I'm like, okay, who are the people and what is, you know, I mean, it's funny, but you know, the thing is they don't step into the shoes of the people that are reading it. And the other one, and this is one of the big mistakes that people make, they don't personalize their connection request. They just hit connect. And that's one of the fastest ways to get into LinkedIn jail. And when you get into LinkedIn jail, it's very hard to get out.
Now, I remember those 3 points Rhonda brought up in the webinar that I first connected with her on. Those are timeless truths that she is presenting. But I can remember the first one about the line of your name on your profile. I jumped on my profile, I looked at mine, and she was right. It took my resume format, had dumped it in there, and I'm looking at it going, that one's pretty easy. How did a smart guy like me miss that? So a lot of people miss the obvious, don't they?
They do, and they don't even do a banner. You know, LinkedIn gives you that blank blue space behind your head, and it's free. It is absolutely free to put a banner up. Why wouldn't you brand yourself consistent with how you're showing up on your website, how you're showing up on Facebook? Because 90% of the people on LinkedIn are on Facebook.
Right. Well,
so you want to show up consistently in your branding.
Well, and that cross branding you talked about in your show off, I've talked about it in mine. You want to cross brand so you can find yourself and people go, that's Rhonda here, that's Rhonda here, that's Rhonda here. It's recognizable, it's easy, so they know they have the right person. That branding is so important, isn't it?
It really is. And, you know, one of the other things that's interesting is, and I love talking about this, and that's the recommendations. So when you look at recommendations on LinkedIn, I'm always surprised when I see they are so old. I mean, I have shoes older than people's recommendations, right? It's like 2008, 2009. Oh my gosh, right? And the other thing that's kind of interesting about the recommendations is a lot of times it's a real disparity. So you'll see somebody might be a real superstar and they've received, say, 20 recommendations. And then you look and you say, okay, how many have you given? And you see 0. Now, what does that tell you? A couple things. Number one, they're oblivious, which is okay. You know, you don't know what you don't know. Or they're really not a giver, because how long does it take to really write something nice about somebody, right?
Right.
Or the other thing, yeah, you know, and that's really true. I make a point when somebody really provides something of value for me, I ask them, I say, hey, Richie, on LinkedIn? And, you know, typically they'll say yes. And I will tell them, you know, I'd love to write a recommendation for you. Now, one of the things that people don't realize about that is when you write a recommendation and somebody's reading it, guess what they get to do? Click over to your profile. So it's visibility. That's the beauty of giving, because somebody is going to say, well, okay, who is this person that wrote all these nice things about me? And now you're actually giving them an opportunity to look at you. So people don't realize how valuable those recommendations are. And there's so many more reasons.
Well, and that touches on one of the biggest things I think you brought up, and it's one of your books as well. LinkedIn is about relationship. It's not about business. It's really about relationships that lead to business. And so many people, I think, me including back in the day, we were doing business. We weren't doing relationship. We wanted to be tie and suit and formal. And instead, those recommendations, the things you're talking about, it's really about building relationships so you can grow a business relationship. Why do we miss that? Why are people on LinkedIn missing the fact this is about relationship first?
Well, it's an interesting thing. So if you know my backstory, right? My backstory is that I was married for 28 years. I got divorced for 6, and then I remarried my ex-husband, right? So I joke and I say I have a husband, a husband, didn't have to change my name and the kids are ours. And the thing that's really kind of interesting about that is I had 6 years to date, okay? So if you think of LinkedIn, they're in a similar way. I had a lot of first dates, and they were typically what you would do on LinkedIn. It was a cup of coffee, tell me about yourself, what are your interests, right? But on LinkedIn, you don't see that a lot. What the mistake is, hey, hi, Rich, came across your profile. I do X, Y, Z. If you're in the market for here, and it's like, I don't even know you and you want to take me home, right? It's just, let's have a slow dance. And the beauty of what's happening now in the virtual world, and most people are not taking advantage of, is what I call the virtual cup of coffee. But here's the caveat, okay? What if I invited you as one of my connections to just jump on a call? Let's have a virtual cup of coffee, learn about what's up with one another, right? Maybe there's somebody I can introduce to you. Maybe there's a resource that I can give you. But let's make sure that the lane that we're in is a no selling zone lane. So right before we ever jump on that call, it's like, I want to know who you are. I want to know how I can help you. And in turn, you're going to ask me that. And it is not a sales call. That's what's missing.
So speak to that for a second. How do you do that on LinkedIn? How do you fish, connect, build relationship without turning it into the sales pitch? Because I get those, you get those. How do you change this now?
Yeah. So here's one of the things that most people forget. How many first level connections do you have? LinkedIn says you're an all-star if you have 500 plus, right? So on average, most people have 500. I'm probably the exception with almost 25,000, right? But here's the thing. I would guess that most people don't know their first level connections. Do you? Do you know most of them?
Actually, I do, yes.
When was the last time that you talked to most of them?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You're the exception, which is awesome. Most people don't know their first level connections, right? I jokingly say they show up at weddings and funerals like your first cousins, right? You don't know who they are. So one of the things that many people can do to really keep their pipeline full and still stay true to building relationships is reconnect with the people that they're already connected to, coming from a place of service. So maybe it's this great new resource that you came across and you want to share. Maybe it's, something that you've heard about that you don't think somebody else knows about, right? So it's reconnecting with that first level. That's one of the places that you can start. And the second place is when you're connecting with people that you don't know. Make sure that connection request, whether you're doing it on a phone, right? And about 53% of people or even higher are doing it on a mobile device, or you're doing it on your computer. Always, always, always personalize the connection request. And that's going to get a much higher degree of people that are going to accept it than, getting yourself into that LinkedIn jail where people say that the 3 words you never want to hear are 4 words, I don't know you. Right, you never want to get that, because if you get 5 of those, LinkedIn's going to shut you down.
So let's talk about the profiles, because our people are speakers, they're teachers, they're authors, mainly people that you work with naturally. But the virtual stage is a relatively new thing. Hashtags are just being born. Themes are being born. This is a whole new thing out there. How do you leverage the virtual stage people and enhance their platform, do you think? What would be some recommendations for my tribe to say, you know what, LinkedIn never thought of you before, but now you're here?
So this is the way that I think about it. Okay, who has your audience? And I'll use myself as an example. So for a long time, I dealt with realtors, right? Because realtors don't realize that they're actually getting checked out on LinkedIn. Some of them are actually getting a lot of business, but I promise you, after they go on a listing appointment, they are going to get checked out on LinkedIn, right? So if you know who has your audience, you're a speaker, and maybe your audience are realtors, call a broker that has a large office and say, you know, I have a message that I think your audience, your real estate agents might want to hear. And it could be really any kind of a message. I would love to put on a free webinar where I'm going to share the 3 ways that I can help your audience. So what I would say is I can teach your realtors how to present, prospect, and profit on LinkedIn. And all I ask is that you allow me to share this. And at the end, if you agree with what I'm saying, I'd like to make an offer, okay? Or I'd like to have a way for them to connect with me. So understanding as a speaker, as a coach, whoever, whatever you happen to be, who's your audience, and then go and say, look, I'd love to be able, it would be unfair of me not to share my knowledge with your audience. Mm-hmm. So you go find that leader and say, I'd like to share it. It's a virtual stage. How cool is that? You do it all day long.
Well, and that's how I see it. And that's how many people are starting to see it. Now, you and I talked earlier today, and I've seen the shift already. On LinkedIn, it's been articles, and it's been a lot of that data stuff. Is it accurate to say that LinkedIn is now shifting more virtual and video driven as well? Does it change from just the blog post to a blog post with a video and things like that? Is it beginning to catch up to the video generation now?
Well, the posting is really important. Only about 3% of people are actually writing articles on LinkedIn. So I strongly recommend that you write, because you're in the minority, which means you have a very high chance of getting noticed. And if you write something that really catches the eyes of the right people, it can get picked up by other places like Forbes and other things. But on a daily basis, you want to be posting. And the post can be anything from a photo with a caption and the hashtags to a video. And if you're going to use video, make sure that you close caption it, because most people are not listening. So they want to see it streaming across. They may not be a place where, they can put the sound on, right? So the thing that I tell people is do 3 things every day. And literally it won't take you more than 5 minutes. Post, like, and comment and share. So that's 4 things. Post, like, comment, share. And if you really want to put the icing on the cake, tag. Very tactfully and very strategically tag people. 5 things, and I promise you, your pipeline will be full.
Now, I think if I remember during the webinar, you mentioned something like every day, send out a new connection of 10 new connections a day. You did some number of keep the pipeline growing.
10 before 10.
Yes, yeah. Could you explain
10
that
before
for
10.
people? Yeah.
Reach out to 10 people before 10 a.m. every single day. And, one of the things that comes back to what we talked about before, make sure it's in a non-salesy way. And if you are going to be direct, and in some cases that's okay, I actually had a gentleman who approached me on LinkedIn, and he said, I work with speakers, coaches, and people like yourself, helping them to up their game in PowerPoint. I'm a PowerPoint expert. And the offer that he made was, I'll do your first 3 slides at no cost. If you like them, great, you can hire me. If not, keep the slides, no problem. And this guy did such an awesome job for me that I hired him, and now I refer all my clients to him. And he's in Pakistan. And I got to know him really well, and I found out that he's engaged, he's a young guy, and he's so talented. And now, when I work with people and I say, look, you should put a PowerPoint slide set that talks about what you do on your profile so that people can see, or do a webinar and use these slides, I refer everybody to him. He's an incredible resource. And I keep telling him to raise his prices. He's just so great. It's such a good deal.
Well, now, before we open up for Q&A in a few moments here, and people, again, take notes. Rhonda's here to help you out. If you have questions about LinkedIn, whether you're using it or not, make sure you have some good questions. She's here to help you out. She'll also have a little bonus surprise at the end here, so don't go anywhere. But one of the things that first blew me away when I heard you, Rhonda, was you said don't use it as a resume, use it as a highlight reel kind of for what you do and what you do well.
Yeah.
Turn it more into a showcase versus the resume. how do you make that change? Because my mind blew up that day and I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
So they changed the name of the summary to the about section. They actually gave it a name change. So now it's called your about section. And how you do that in the about section, the most important part of that are your first 3 lines. And you know the reason for that? At the end of the first 3 lines are the 2 words that you want somebody to click on. See more, because that gets them into the rest of your about section. And that's where you're going to tell them who you serve, what you do, what kind of results you get, what makes you different, a little bit of personal information about you, and most importantly, how do they reach you, right? I mean, if they can't reach you, they're going to go to the next person. Quite different from a resume, right?
Totally different, and it's much more engaging. And I can remember jumping off that webinar you were on and looking at a bunch of profiles, and you had recommended 2 or 3 good profiles to go check out. And I remember eating it up and thinking, wow, I'm so far off the plumb. I went through and gutted things and changed things, but it's changing so quickly now. Again, it seems like there's another evolution going on. What are some of the newer tips or tricks that are brand new that you're seeing that we should be prepared for adapting now?
Well, they just made a change, which is kind of interesting, to groups. It used to be with LinkedIn groups that you could only message 15 people, and now they took that restriction away. They're still not the same as Facebook groups, but that change is a really positive one. The other thing that's happened on LinkedIn recently is it used to be you had 13 places, but what's called rich text media. So that's videos, audios, PDFs, JPEGs underneath the about section. And they took that away and they replaced it with what they now call the showcase. So that's another change that's come about as well. And then, the other thing too is that most people underestimate the power of using the paid version of LinkedIn. And Sales Navigator is really, it's kind of like driving the car without any GPS. If that was me, I'd get lost in a 2-car garage. I mean, I would just be gone. So it really is a way to open up all of these other filters, to save your searches. It gives you so much information. And at $79 a month, or if you do it annually, I think it works out to 20% less. You can have so many more ways to search. You can see who's looking at you. So it really is a pay to play. That's part of it. There's been a lot of changes in LinkedIn, but those are the big ones right now. And LinkedIn Live now is coming out in beta form. And I'm still on the waiting list. So if you are somebody that's really big,
I was going to ask you about that because there are some people doing that. I'm just seeing it popping up. And that was literally my next question. Yeah. What's LinkedIn Live? How long do we have to wait for this thing?
Well, it's actually a wait list. It's a beta, so they're rolling it out. And from what I've been told, and I'm still waiting, right? What I've been told is if you do a lot of lives, so you're somebody that's, very visible on Facebook Live, and you're doing a lot of stuff on YouTube and some of the other social media channels, you're probably going to rise to the top a lot quicker. So, because they want to know that you know what you're doing. They really want information. It's not a commercial. It's about delivering quality information that people want to know and want to hear about.
So it's content. LinkedIn's all about content. Whether you're talking about something you do or something you sell or your specialty, LinkedIn's really about professional content, right?
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah.
So before we move up into the Q&A time, what other things would you like to make sure that we don't miss out on? Just to know about profiles or LinkedIn, what would be a juicy, good couple nuggets to tease them before we open it up?
So this is what I recommend when I do workshops and I do webinars. Have somebody that knows what you do really well, that knows your superpower, that knows how really great you are, and have them look at your LinkedIn profile and ask them this question. If somebody referred me to you and all you had to go on was my LinkedIn profile, would you actually call me? Would you engage with me? Because the truth is that a lot of times people have this blind spot and they just don't realize how their perception of themselves is not how their ideal client, referral partner, or prospect is seeing them. So ask somebody that's willing to tell you the truth, what they see. You know, it's kind of like, well, where are my glasses? Well, they're on top of your head. You can't see them. It's your blind spot, right? You don't know what you don't know. So that's what I would suggest.
And that's really true in all of this, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're speaking, recording, whatever. That feedback loop is so incredibly important. You get people you love, people you trust, and take the positive criticism to up your game. Roll the videotape, as we talk about every week here on the stage. Get someone to watch it with you, give you some feedback. You never know that nervous tick. You never know that one thing you do irritates the crowd and you never knew about it. The same thing with your profile, right?
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing that I would leave you with is always come from a place of over-delivering. You know, the old expression, what it is, people don't care about you until they know how much you care. I tell people, and this is really my mantra, I will always under-promise and over-deliver. You know, that's really the thing. And the more you give, the more you get. And that's what I think is what's missing. You know, everybody thinks, oh my God, I'm just going to give it away. No, you're not. You know what? Come from a place of service, not a place of sales, and watch what happens. That's where the true magic really begins.
Rhonda Sher is our guest tonight on the virtual stage, and we have reached about the half-hour mark. I'm going to go to everybody can turn on cameras, turn on microphone. We're going to do the usual open mic stuff here. I would love to have you guys participate. Rhonda, again, is a LinkedIn expert, and LinkedIn is the gold mine for businesses right now. And so, by the way, this is less fuzzy. I can see you much clearer, Rhonda. Why didn't I do this a while ago? So if you have questions for Rhonda, you can open up your mics and please ask the question, give her a little time with a little lag going on here tonight, and you know, let her shoot back. But if you have specific questions about your industry, about your profile, she does have a great offer. Why don't we talk about the offer right now, where people think of a moment, but you have a special offer that you'd like to tell everybody to help them with their profile.
I do. Right? And, you know, so the offer that I'm really making is, and think about this, okay? Again, we talked about the blind spot, right? We all go to the doctor, we get a checkup, we all go to our CPA once a year, we get our taxes done. But when was the last time you had a professional look at your LinkedIn profile and tell you, oh my gosh, do you know that you're sending people to your competitors because of how your privacy settings are? Do you know how to turn that off? You know, there's so many different things. So I'm offering a LinkedIn profile audit. We jump on Zoom for 30 minutes. You get to ask me anything but my age or my weight, and I'll pretty much answer, okay? And that's a standing joke. But it's 30 minutes, and it's $97, and it's normally $197. And if they want to take advantage of that, all they need to do is just send me an email at unlockinglinkedin@gmail.com, unlockinglinkedin@gmail. Or they can go to my PayPal, which is just paypal.me/Rhonda L. Sher. Make payment of $97. I'll send you a Zoom link. And in that half hour, you're going to know exactly what you need to do. And I'm a straight shooter. You can ask my kids. I tell the truth, right? In a very loving way. So that's the special offer. And they can also get my LinkedIn planner. They can just go to rhondasher.com and get my LinkedIn planner for free right there on the homepage.
And again, when I first heard Rhonda, it really had me go back and change a lot of things. And so this offer is really good. And make sure you check out her LinkedIn profile alone. Look at hers. And the last name is S-H-E-R, Rhonda, S-H-E-R, Rhonda Sher. Make sure you check it out because you're going to learn a lot just by looking at that. But she can mine your own LinkedIn site and help you and get it jacked up and better. So anybody have any questions?
You bet. And the other thing too, yeah, real quick, I just want to mention, I wrote another book recently called Unleashing LinkedIn. And it's a very cool little interactive ebook. And if you go on Facebook to Facebook groups and apply to get in, there's just a couple questions. It's called Social Connection Academy. Social Connection Academy, that's the name of my Facebook group. And I'm putting about 2 videos a month there where I'm giving all kinds of cool educational tips. It's free. Come on over to the Facebook group and, you know, interact with the community. So ask away if you have questions. I see my friend Rhonda is here, my new connection, my new friend Rhonda, who I just met today on LinkedIn. So I'm so happy to see you.
Welcome to the group, Rhonda. So
Hi, Rhonda.
And ask questions.
My question has to do with the contact information. And I think I spoke a little bit about this, and a lot of times when I look at people's information, it's not current or correct. What information should you actually have in your contact?
Yeah, you can put all of that there. And if that's relevant to your business, I recommend that you do put that there. Remember, we want your branding to be consistent, but you also want to have a call to action. How do you want people to reach you? Do you want to send them to get your free ebook? Do you want them to watch a webinar? Do you want them to book an appointment? Do you want them to call you? So you want to make sure that they don't need to use smoke signals to find you. You want to put the contact information front and center so that they know how to reach you, and you want to tell them why they want to reach you, right? And also why they don't. Again, I've seen profiles where people will say, if you're trying to sell me something, please do not contact me, right? Because it's kind of like, let's have a first date before we move in,
Great question.
And you always suggest your personal email, not your business email account?
What I recommend is that you use an email specifically for LinkedIn so that you can track what's coming to you from LinkedIn. And a lot of people don't do that. It used to be one of the changes, Rich, and this is kind of an interesting thing. So I believe it was 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. You used to be able to download all your connections and you would get the email addresses of everybody that was your connection. And when all of the spam laws came out, they took that away. Mm-hmm. So what happens when you put your email on your profile, there are people that, the polite word is data mine, that will data mine to get your email address. I recommend that you put an email address that you don't mind that the world knows, because everything that's out there becomes public.
That's a great point. Yeah. And especially with some of the virtual bombings going on these days, there's a lot of that going on. So only put out there what you're willing to have really be out there, whether it's the emails, the video chat.
Exactly. Be careful what phone number you put too, because if you have your personal cell phone number, be careful. I recommend getting a Google phone or, one of the services like Ring Central or Grasshopper or any of those, but not putting your personal cell phone on there. I don't recommend you do that.
Great point. Anyone else got any questions for Rhonda about LinkedIn and how to best leverage it for you and what you're doing, or whether?
It's Rhonda again. I have a question about your banner. What if you work for several different companies and several different things, so you don't want to put a company banner, but just a banner about what I'm looking at your banner, but.
So what I would do, Rhonda, is, I would brand you. Just brand yourself instead of branding all of the things that you do, right? The old expression, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. They're interacting with you, not your companies. So I would make the banner about you. And when all else fails, just put a picture of your city behind you. Just put a picture of your city. That's a beautiful way to let people know where you live, right? Like I would put a picture behind me of San Diego because it's such a gorgeous city. You don't have to go to extremes. Just don't leave the blank blue space there that LinkedIn gives you.
Well, and
thank you.
You can use Canva for that. Canva is a great free tool. You can make a nice little banner. They have the preset settings, so you know the right size, the light, the right everything. You can graphically design it, download it, upload it. Today, I just redid mine. I just literally redid mine this afternoon after Ron and I talked today, just to change it up and see if she caught it. She caught it. And so, it's easy to do.
Yeah, it looks really good.
It was good? You liked it?
Yeah, and make sure you check it out on mobile too, because it's going to look a little different on mobile than it will on a desktop. So you want to make sure that the information isn't blocked.
Hello, Benita. I see you're in the car tonight. Are you traveling with us?
I am, and I missed that first half hour, so I'm anxious to replay that because I really want to learn more about LinkedIn. I've just hardly used it. I have a profile and I don't pay any attention. So,
what's your business, Bonita?
I'm a recovering lawyer and I do ventriloquism and speaking, and that's where I'm transitioning to. And so I'm especially interested in things where I can use my videos of ventriloquism. I've been doing a bunch of little short ones. They're not very professionally lighted or anything, but just like I'll hear.
Who's your audience? Who's your audience? Who's going to hire you? Is it party planners or?
Oh, meeting planners, but then the audience for speaking would be professional women and entrepreneurs.
Very cool.
So
You're the first person that I've come across that does what you do.
I have a profile, but I haven't done a thing. And I was just thinking while I was speaking, I could put video on LinkedIn, right?
Oh, absolutely. 110. Yeah, always put video on there. You want to put video on there. And what a lot of people do is they put a self-introduction on there.
Yeah, so
when somebody comes, well, think about it. When people come to your website, when people go to your website, there's a video, right? Because they get to know you. Well, think of LinkedIn as another version of your website. It's just done in a more linear way so that people can get to the information quicker.
And that's really easy to do. Shoot a video.
Can you do a LinkedIn Live?
Can you do that with LinkedIn Live, or do you have to do that off camera?
No, you don't do a LinkedIn Live. What you do is you put your videos, and what I recommend is that you upload them to Vimeo, and then, or you could do YouTube, it doesn't matter, and then just put the link right there so that people can see them.
Got it. Cool.
Great question.
Yeah. Rhonda, where would you put that link?
Right underneath the section.
The featured.
So, yeah, so you can put it into the showcase section, or what I do, like if you look in my profile underneath the first section, I think the first video, I haven't looked at it for a little bit, but one of the first videos that you see is an interview that I had done on a radio show. And I think the next one is actually a testimonial from one of my clients, Doug, he's a ghostwriter. And in the first month that we worked together, he made $30,000. And he was blown away. And I literally just taught him the system. I now call it the Sher method for unleashing LinkedIn, but it's the same system that I've been using for 9 years. I just gave it a new name, and he made $30,000. He literally had a waiting list a few months later. He said, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." So you just put the testimonials right underneath, in each section, and you have 13 places that you can do that.
And those can be links.
What was his product?
He's a ghostwriter who basically creates the funnels and shows you how to monetize your book so that you can get on stages and sell your product and your services. So he ghostwrites it, and then he does all of the funnels that go along with it. He's pretty exceptional. If you talk about, his name is Doug Crowe, C-R-O-W-E.
So Rhonda, let's go back to the video thing for a second, because I want people to understand underneath their, let's just say your first job, your first career highlight, you can also drop video and pictures into those to also get more hits by adding that visual pop to the different things you do, correct?
Yeah, so under every section, you have the place to drop your videos, to drop your white papers, whatever, you can put anything there, really, a PDF, a JPEG, a video. And here's a really hot tip for your viewers, okay? If you put something on SlideShare, which is owned by LinkedIn, they're actually owned by the same people. So if you have a PowerPoint on SlideShare, it's gonna get you so many more views. So take your PowerPoints, put them on SlideShare, and then share them on LinkedIn.
Now that's a new one.
Secret little tip to get you higher views.
That's a really great new tip.
You know, most people don't know that, you know, think of your LinkedIn profile like prime real estate, okay? Take advantage of all of the places that LinkedIn gives you to put information. I can't tell you how many places that there are that people don't fill out. And again, it comes back to your credibility and your visibility. And your credibility and your visibility is what gives you profitability. So if you know, there's a special section on there. My favorite part of LinkedIn is something called accomplishments, okay? And under accomplishments, you can list your projects. So if you've been a keynote speaker, right, and you want to list some of the places, like one of the things that I've done is I've been a keynote for the national level of NAIFA, the National Association of Insurance and Financial Association, right? I've done the national, the state, and the local. I put that into projects because if there's another association that wants to know that I've spoken for somebody like them, they can see that. Where else can they see that, right? It's like Vistage, same thing. I've been, you know, a speaker at some of the larger Vista conventions. And there are other CEO peer groups that I want to get in front of. So I want to let them know that I've already worked with people like them. How else would they know if I didn't put it on my profile?
So that's a great example of it's not made for that, but you've repurposed it to pull that content to a higher level. And that's what's happened with LinkedIn a lot more. It's not a resume, it's changed and it's evolved to do exactly what you just described, because I've got some achievements. I wasn't thinking about it in that term. I've never used the achievements because it didn't make sense to me. But what you just described will work for many of us.
Absolutely. You know, you're a coach, right? And there's a lot of coaches out there, but you have a lot of credentials and you have a great backstory of who you are and how you came to do what you do. You want to reveal that because people are going to identify with that. You know, they want to identify with the personal side. On my profile, one of the things that I have is, and this is kind of a fun fact, right? I'm a certified face reader. So what that means is I can look at somebody's face and I can tell you whether they like a lot of space between them, whether they have a prosperity mindset or, you know, they have a scarcity mindset about money, whether they fit in. I literally can look at your face and tell you about, you know, and I just see you the way you see yourself, right? But it's a great conversation opener. People will say to me, hey, can you read my face? I'm like, sure, you know, and it's immediately rapport. So, you know, put something interesting about yourself on your profile.
Well, we do have a live audience here in the studio tonight, by the way, and there was an that came out of the live audience when you said that. So it is pretty impressive. So, but that's what you want to do. That's a great example of what you want to do with LinkedIn. You don't want to be static. You want to have that the ooh, so you can turn it in from relationship to business to, like you say in your books, money. Because ultimately you want to make
absolutely.
free.
Yeah, and there's so many things that I share with people on how to develop that instant rapport. I'm actually going to be putting together a course on how to read faces, you know, not the way that I've studied it for 2 years, but, you know, just so that when you look at somebody, you know how they process, you know, and you know, for example, when you see somebody, here's a great example, okay, and they have a pretty wide space between their two front teeth, you know, it's prominent. I bet you don't know what that means, Rich.
I have no idea, but you're going to tell us.
So typically when you see somebody that has a space between their front teeth, that means they're a risk taker. Now, I can't tell you whether they're going to go on, you know, Space Mountain or they're going to be a risk taker with their finances, but there's a very high likelihood that that person is going to be a risk taker in some way, shape, or form, right? How valuable would it be to know that before you ever have that conversation?
That stuff is gold. That stuff is great.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I'm looking at you, right? And can I play with you here for a second? We have some fun?
Sure, I'm always fair game. You know that.
So I bet that you're the kind of guy that wherever you walk in, you blend right in. You're kind of a chameleon and you blend into every situation. Is that true?
Pretty much true. People have said there's never a person I haven't met that's not a friend. So yes.
Yeah. And that's from your eyebrows that I can tell. Isn't that interesting?
I'll have to check with my audience here afterwards and see if they agree with that.
You know, it's really more about how you see yourself, right? I mean, and you look for combinations of features, but it's kind of fun. So, you know, oftentimes when you'll see somebody that has a dimple on their cheek, right? And here's something that's kind of interesting. The left side of your face is actually your personal life, and the right side of your face is your business if you're right-handed. So when you see somebody that has a dimple, you know, and I love dimples, I wish I had one, that's a playful side. You know, that person has a really playful side, and you can actually be a little more playful with them than maybe if they didn't. Just kind of fun, a little off the track from LinkedIn, but again, it's all about the rapport.
Well, let me twist it back around to LinkedIn, because again, my first thought when LinkedIn was professional seriousness. I'm seeing a lot of personality in these profiles. There's a lot of personalities, and I don't think we're looking for it. Maybe I don't think we're expecting that. So can you tell our people again, how can they bring their personality through? I mean, you talked about doing a good headshot. You talked about the backdrop. What things can also help bring that personality that will stand out?
So in your about section, you want to put something that people can relate to. And I'll give you a very good example, okay? One of my clients is a land banker. Now, there's just nothing sexy about land banking as a retirement strategy, right? It's a great strategy, it really is. If you can hang on to it for 10 years, you can make a lot of money. So in her particular case, what's on her profile is that she has actually purchased 10 pieces of land, held on to them and sold them. And with the proceeds of that, she started an orphanage in Vietnam. And she's also an Air Force vet. So when people start reading her profile, they're very curious about the Vietnamese orphanage that she supports and goes to every year. So that's something that you might want to share. Maybe there's a charity that you're very passionate about. You know, for a lot of people, they put something there that makes them relatable. So, and you know, another example, one of my clients is a coach that specifically works with pro athletes after they have retired. And when you read her profile, one of the things that you find out is she grew up in a family of sports fans. And when she learned the statistics of the number of professional NFL and NBA, you know, basketball, hockey, baseball, football players that literally go bankrupt within 4 years of, you know, their professional career, she was like, oh my gosh, I can coach these people and show them a new game plan on how they don't have to end up working at Home Depot, right? So she tells the story of how she became a pro athlete coach. People want to know the backstory. You know, it's called your mess to success.
Well, and for me, just to throw that on there, to give you guys just another example, this is National Stuttering Awareness Week. So I've grown up with a stutter. I talk about that. It's one of my talks on Stutter the Stage. So I actually put that on there, just like you're describing, as one of those human touches of, this guy's a professional broadcaster, he's a keynote speaker. Oh, but he stutters. And people scratch their head and say, I want to know how you got there. Because stutters don't get there.
Yeah, you know, and part of it is you want to be relatable. I actually, you know, I talk about my 10 before 10, right? I reached out to the #1 female influencer on LinkedIn, okay, as part of my 10 before 10. And I called her because I wanted to know how she became the #1 female influencer. And guess what happened? She hired me. Like, oh my gosh, right? And all I did was, I was just curious. I wanted to know because I had read her book. I was so impressed with her. And she was ready for a LinkedIn upgrade. So you just never know where that's going to go. You know, just be interested in people and ask about some of the things that catch your interest in that about section.
Final moments for questions from anyone from the show tonight. Anyone got any personal questions? I got one more final thought for her myself, but what other questions from any of you that we have tonight?
Ron, we have a quiet group. Rhonda.
My favorite was the languages that you speak. You don't only speak English, you speak the language of networking.
I do. My first book was called The 2-Minute Networker. My tagline was, and people used to really laugh, they'd say, you know, what is the secret to being successful at networking? And it applies offline and online. And you know what they are? You know what the answer is? The two things your mother taught you not to do. Number one, talk to strangers. And number two, master that F word, follow up.
Well,
Okay.
let me tag into that for 1 second, because one of the things that I have learned by stumbling and bumbling and getting better at this, I used to think those rock stars that you were mentioning, those A-listers, the #1 top tier people, they were too busy for little old me. In fact, many of them want to engage with you, and the reason they're on LinkedIn is so they can mentor, they can coach, and they want people like us, the up-and-comers, the new movers, shakers, whatever you call yourself. They actually want that engagement. So rather than thinking, wow, they're really high and not reaching out for them, we should do what Rhonda literally did, and you should try to make those connections, because you never know what door that will open. And that's so much more true than I ever thought going through all this.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, Rhonda, again, tell us about your special you have for the gang that's here tonight. Again, we are going to be replaying this. We apologize for the technical glitches earlier. The bandwidth in the cyber world is blowing up tonight, but at the end, the finish line, we're all synced up really good. So make sure we understand what you have for a gift tonight.
So first of all, you can go to my website, rhondasher.com, and get my LinkedIn planner. You can go to my Facebook group and you can get my downloadable book, which is an interactive book at Social Connection Academy in the Facebook groups. And if you'd like a LinkedIn audit, if you'd really like to jump on Zoom with me for 30 minutes, and I will go through your profile, show you some of the ways that you're actually not optimizing. It's $97. That's half price. That's the COVID-19 special, right? And all you need to do is either send an email to me at unlockinglinkedin@gmail.com, or you can simply go to paypal.me/Rhonda, RHONDA Sher, send $97. I will send you a link to my Zoom calendar. And if you want to use Venmo or any of the other fun ways to pay me, just send me an email and I will let you know how to do that. But we'll go through it on Zoom, and you can actually keep that video. I'll send it to you within 24 hours and, you know, see how you can upgrade your profile.
That's Rhonda Sher. Again, we'll have all those things in the links and the descriptions afterwards. Don't forget, these do get reposted. This is exclusive content, you guys. This is just for the people in the group. This is not being spread out. So everything you're getting from people like Rhonda, we have a whole bunch of more people getting slated and to come on in. This is taking off and people want to get on. They want to give you inside tips. But this is for you that are inside the group. So make sure How to Rock the Virtual Stage group, you stay in touch, you watch the posts, you keep engaging like Rhonda said. But again, she's nationally recognized. She speaks and travels. She is the expert. I really encourage you to reach out. Go connect with her. Go find her on LinkedIn. Send her a little note so you're in on the chat. You love what you did. Can you connect? You'll get one new friend tonight on LinkedIn. I guarantee it. And we'll be back next week again, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll have another guest next week. We may be talking about TED Talks next week. The week after that, we have another guest already previously lined up. So continue to follow us, track it, share with people. We would love to help you out anyone we can. And of course, as always, I have a 15-minute free consultation. If anyone wants to talk about rocking the stage, questions about how to enhance whatever speaking community you are in and how you want to improve your skills virtually, reach out, and I'll happily take the time to sit down. We'll do a little virtual cup of coffee with you. Rhonda, thank you very much for the time tonight. I really, really appreciate it once again.
My pleasure. It was really fun. I'm glad everybody was able to join us.
Everyone have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
Rich.
We'll see you back at 6 o'clock next week, everybody. Have a great week and stay safe.